Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy. Welcome to my channel. Thanks to everyone who supports me. It motivates me to get better. I won't keep you. Let's get started. Story 1 from user Rice and Leaks. I would also say people are encouraged to reach out for help, but most mental health services are sorely lacking. In college, I remember all these materials encouraging students to access counseling services if needed. I tried to do so half a dozen times, and the wait list, the hoops you have to jump through, etc., just made the whole process disheartening and stifling, and eventually I just gave up. I was trying to help an acquaintance of mine who is poor and has a lot of mental health issues. I tried reaching out on her behalf to a lot of the services that promote themselves as being available for her demographic. In the end, it all fell through in a way pretty similar to my other experience above. In a progressive city like mine, there are tons of flyers you see around town, in buses, the local media, touted by government officials for mental health and other social services that make it seem like all you have to do is reach out and ask. From my experience, these services are usually a complete train wreck, and actually being able to access them is near impossible. I've worked in social work, so have tried to hook people up with these things a lot. Story 2 from user The Lake Witch. A long time ago, a former co-worker committed censored. My other former co-workers posted about it for a while after, mostly platitudes about, if only we knew they were struggling, and if anyone ever needs help, just reach out. I finally told one of them that I thought the posts were interesting, considering I'd overdosed while working there, after reaching out many times to people I'd thought were good friends, only to have people stigmatize and low-key ridicule me when I did. Everyone knew I was on medical leave for mental health issues, even if they didn't know about the overdose, yet no one reached out, and they mainly ignored me when I came back. This all happened nearly 20 years ago, and this particular FB interaction happened probably 10-15 years ago. I'm well and stable now. I don't remember what the reply was, just that it was a lot of backtracking and fumbling and apologizing. All too often I see people using the memory of a person's censored to virtue signal when they can't be bothered to care about the people in their lives who are still struggling. It's so gross to me. Story 3 from user Tacos for Algernon. Responses to bullying in general are just all over the place. We know it's bad, we don't want it to happen, but just roll over and accept it as inevitable. I really think a lot of focus needs to be placed on zero-tolerance policies because they're just dumb. How do you stop a bully? Punch them in the mouth is one of the go-to responses. They won't stop until you stand up to them. Is somewhat accurate, but it creates a feedback loop. Violence is the only answer. It's just a matter of who is perpetrating it. So the bully is violent towards the victim, but if the victim responds or defends themselves, then both parties are punished. If the victim doesn't respond, then they're just a victim and will continue to be a victim. Well, then guess there's no solution. Might as well hand everyone a pair of boxing gloves when they're born shrugs shoulders. Or, and this is just spitballing, we look at the root cause of the bullying. Research has shown that kids who bully generally come from problematic households. They are generally seeking attention, and the violence gets them that attention. Hurt people hurt people. Those problematic households generally have one thing in common: poverty. How's about we fix the social safety nets and allow all kids to grow up in stable, loving homes? Eliminate disparity, and you eliminate a lot of problems that disparity creates. Story 4 from user IVIP89. We live in an extrovert's world. In many Western cultures, being outgoing, sociable, and outspoken is often celebrated and encouraged. It's seen as the norm to want to chat, network, and be the life of the party. But when it comes to introverts who may crave quiet, solitude, or just less social interaction, the script flips. It's socially acceptable to nudge the quiet person in the room and say, "Why don't you talk more?" But imagine telling a chatty person, "Can you be quiet for a bit?" It would be considered rude or offensive. This double standard underscores a deeper societal bias towards extroversion. The noise and buzz of constant interaction are often valued more than the quiet, reflective spaces introverts thrive in. It's like we're saying one way of interacting with the world is better than the other, when in reality, both have their strengths and should be equally respected. In a world that can't stop talking, Sometimes we forget the power of silence and introspection. An extroverted introvert. Story 5 from user Wellyboot97. The double standard between women, especially teenage girls, being fans of things, and men being fans of things. It's deemed as somewhat normal and almost to be expected that men go absolutely mental over sport, especially things like football, to the point that when there are football games on, the local police are usually on standby to deal with the riots and fights that usually happen. And that's just kind of seen as part of it and to be expected, and is just people being passionate. On the other hand, if you get a group of teenage girls getting a bit excited over, like, I don't know, a BTS concert or a Taylor Swift show or something, suddenly that's deemed weird and stupid, and they get dragged for it. It's literally the same thing. The latter is also far less disruptive, yet is the thing that is always demonized. It's not a new thing either. It goes back as far as like the Beatles and Elvis, where it was just passed off as ridiculous hysteria. Meanwhile, you've got a Brexit geezer going absolutely feral because Manchester United lost. Loki pisses me off a lot that anything women and teenage girls like is demonized, yet things like sport get a free pass. Story 6 from user deleted. Men being abused, harassed, or made to feel uncomfortable. Vulgar, physically, emotionally, etc. And can't be victims in a society where they're supposed to be powerful and dominant. That being said, it seems few women these days entertain or appreciate masculinity. So the more men become gentle and docile to attract women, can more easily fall victim to being abused and harassed, etc. The real problem is, it's right in front of us, and nobody takes it seriously. Jimmy Bennett and Johnny Depp are examples of men being taken advantage of by women, and look what happened there. Edit. So everyone is giving me nonsense about Johnny Depp. All I know about that case is what I read about it. I wasn't present in the courtroom, but I was present for the allegations Amber Heard had made, and everyone calling me a misogynist for saying we should wait for more evidence. Then look what happened. Someone commented that an ex-wife has nothing to do with another wife when it comes to abuse. That's funny, because Johnny Depp's ex-wife served as a character witness during that trial. Secondly, nobody said anything about Jimmy Bennett. Does anybody know about that case? How Asia Argento publicly called out Harvey Weinstein at an award show because of his disgusting allegations. What happened to her? Oh, during the investigation against Weinstein, it was discovered that she had groomed and vulgar assaulted her co-star since he was a child, and tried to blame her grooming on him. So we know what happened to Depp, Heard, and of course Weinstein. What happened to Asia Argento and Jimmy Bennett's case? Woman wanted Weinstein's head on a platter, but Rose McGowan, who also called out Weinstein and filmed content together about men abusing women, only for McGowan to say that the penal system should handle Argento. She wanted a perverted man to be burned at the stake, but a woman should stand trial. Interesting to say the least. Story 7 from user Maxwell's Demona. That women are socially responsible for everyone's vulgar health. And I don't just mean shouldering the burden of birth control, although that's part of it. Most women also get a vulgar health exam annually, which includes getting an STD panel if they are vulgar active. How many men do you know who get regular STD screening? Can thank the women for everyone not all walking around with syphilis or HPV. Speaking of HPV, it's also standard for women to get Gardasil, which is the HPV vaccine. I have a friend who is male who recognizes the double standard, and he asked his doctor if he can get the Gardasil vaccine course also. The doctor was initially baffled BC men just aren't expected to get it, and even started arguing with him about it, until the doctor had the wait a second realization themselves that there is just no reason why men cannot or should not get the vaccine either, and agreed to give it to him. Men are just as capable of contracting HPV as women. Most women who contract it, it's because they got it from a male vulgar partner. The vaccine is just as effective in men as it is in women. The only difference is that men will at worst get genital warts from HPV, while women will at worst die from cervical cancer. Story 8 from user hour Carpenter8465. That it is common knowledge that mental illness is the cause of the worst types of violent crime. Everyone is aware and will say it. He was insane to kill and eat his victims. Yet the perpetrators are almost always charged, tried, convicted and sentenced as competent. Not only does this not make any sense, but it's a huge loss to society, as these types of mental illnesses need to be studied relentlessly in controlled scientific conditions. The desire for revenge still outweighs the desire for prevention, early detection, or prediction. It's ass backwards. And another thing, the people who wage the worst crimes, the ones who kill by the thousands in the name of resources, or who are billionaires through the use of slave, sweatshop, child labor, and those who literally are destroying the actual planet, not euphemism literally, are the elite and socially considered enviable. What the actual FK is wrong with this place? Story 9 from user Browen Battlecry. People are happy to pay lip service to teachers. I'm talking preschool too. But when it comes to putting their money where their mouth is, that's when people turn and start calling teachers incompetent. The economy can't function without teachers. We saw this during the pandemic. When schools closed or stayed closed, everyone was impacted. People with children had to stay home from work or find someone to provide childcare. And people without children were forced to pick up the slack, assuming there was no work from home option for either party. So many people came out making TikToks and memes talking about how teachers were angels, deserved to be paid $1 million, etc. During the 2020 school year, no teachers I know got raises, and any raises seen since then are pretty scant. Teachers get blamed for the loss caused by virtual learning, but it was really the best thing anyone could do at the time. I got one of the most insulting emails I've ever received from a parent that was in response to a simple state of the classroom email I sent before the winter break. It was obvious that not only did the sender not closely read what I wrote, but also was threatening to go over my head to tell my principal, what I'm not sure because I CC admin on every email. This person's main complaint was the student only had a B in the class. The student had a failing test average. They should have been thankful for that B. Story 10 from user deleted. Pretty skinny privilege, especially when it comes to women. Pretty and thin women are generally treated so much nicer than those who lack one or either of those. After I cut my hair short, I was shocked by how rude, men especially, but surprisingly also women, became towards me. No more friendly, polite smiles, no more holding the door open when I have my hands full with bags, no more friendly chatter waiting for the elevator. Just formality. Thin women, girls, and friend groups are even picked out as the only complimentary object in gatherings. It was not too long ago when I was out shopping for jeans, so I went into this outlet store that had huge sales of high-quality garments. In there was this group of girls, teenagers who were shopping together and tried on clothes, the usual. The problem was, as I have sadly seen many times before, the clerk only complimented the thinnest girl on how the clothes looked on her. She just ignored the other girls or gave some light-hearted comments here and there. It was so frustrating to watch, and it probably did nothing to those other girls' self-esteem. Like you are a 50-ish-year-old woman, and those girls are probably like 14. Have some damn self-awareness. People also generally don't comment on the food choices of thin people, but they love to give offhanded comments and advice to bigger, overweight people, as if they are children unable to make choices for themselves. The thing about pretty skinny privilege is that people address it online, but never in real life, and especially not when they witness or experience it firsthand. It's just that elephant in the room everyone is aware of but never comments on. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.